The Conjuring House. The farmhouse at 1677 Round Top Road in Harrisville, Rhode Island, was built in 1736. It sits on 8 acres. A river runs through the property. There are old stone walls covered in moss. In autumn, the surrounding trees turn orange and red, and the house looks, by all accounts, like somewhere a family would want to spend a lifetime. In January 1971, Roger and Carolyn Perron moved into the house with their 5 daughters, Andrea, Nancy, Christine, Cindy, and April. Roger was drawn by the price and the space. Carolyn was drawn by the beauty of the property. They paid $10,000 for it. The activity began within days. Small things first. A broom moved from one room to another, small piles of dirt appearing on floors that Carolyn had just cleaned, objects disappearing and returning in different locations. Carolyn rationalized. The children were adjusting. The house was old. Old houses make sounds. Then the smells began, a specific smell that Andrea Perron later described as the smell of rotting flesh that would fill a room without warning and disappear just as suddenly. Then the sounds, knocking from inside the walls, footsteps on empty staircases, a woman's voice humming in rooms that were unoccupied. Then Carolyn began waking up with bruises, with bite marks on her legs, with scratches on her arms that she could not account for. She told Roger. Roger, a practical man who had explained everything up to this point, could not explain this. The daughters had their own experiences. The worst centered on the middle bedroom, the room that the Heinzens would later identify as the most active in the house. Andrea Perron, who was 12 when they moved in, and who later wrote a 3-volume memoir about the decade they lived there, has been publicly consistent about what she witnessed. We all experienced encounters with spirits. Some were unpleasant, some were lovely, from benign to benevolent to mean-spirited. The mean-spirited ones had a name, Bathsheba, and Bathsheba had a specific target, Carolyn Perron. Whatever was in that house did not distribute its attention equally. Carolyn received the worst of it, and it grew worse over time. By 1973, the Perron family was desperate enough to call in Ed and Lorraine Warren. Ed Warren was a self-described demonologist. Lorraine Warren was a clairvoyant. Together, they had investigated hundreds of cases across New England, including the Amityville case. They arrived at the Harrisville farmhouse and spent considerable time there over the following months. What Ed Warren documented there, he described as one of the most compelling cases he had ever investigated. The house, in his assessment, contained multiple presences, not a single haunting, but a layered one, accumulated over centuries of deaths and tragedies on the land. Bathsheba, in his analysis, was the dominant entity and the most hostile. The séance has become the most documented single event from the Perron case. Lorraine Warren led it. Carolyn Perron was present. What happened next has been described by multiple witnesses. Carolyn Perron began speaking in a language no one in the room recognized. Her chair lifted from the floor. She was thrown across the room. Andrea Perron was not in the room when it happened. She heard it from elsewhere in the house. She has described what she heard in several interviews, consistently across decades. Roger Perron, furious at the Warrens after the séance, he ordered them to leave. He believed the investigation had made things worse, not better. The Warrens left. The activity continued. The Perron family stayed for 9 more years. They left in 1980. They left by all family accounts because they had no choice. The house had become something that was destroying them from the inside out. Marriages strained, children traumatized, Carolyn's health deteriorating in ways that could not be medically explained. They left and did not look back. Some of the daughters have said they have never fully recovered from what they witnessed as children in that house.
In June 2019, Cory and Jennifer Heinzen purchased 1677 Round Top Road for $439,000. They were paranormal investigators from Maine. Cory had been investigating cases for 10 years. He knew the property's history in detail. He believed he could live there and conduct investigations simultaneously. He believed that approaching the house with respect and knowledge would protect him. Within 3 months, the activity began. Footsteps in empty rooms, doors opening and closing on their own, objects moving, disembodied voices captured on the recording equipment they had installed throughout the house. Cory Heinzen described it in a documented interview. Doors opening and closing on their own, footsteps, knocking, the disembodied voices. Jennifer Heinzen had her own encounter. She was in a room alone when she saw it, a shadow figure. Tall, dark, with visible head and shoulders, but no other features. She described it publicly as reminding her of Slender Man in its proportions. She was not afraid in that moment, she said. She was, in her own word, excited. That would change. The Heinzens opened the house for investigations, overnight stays, day tours, television productions. Ghost Adventures host Zach Bagans filmed at the property. He stated afterward that he felt something draining the life out of him during filming and that he was sick for weeks after leaving. The middle bedroom remained the most active location in the house, consistent with what the Perrons had reported decades earlier. After 2 years, the Heinzens listed the house for $1.2 million, nearly 3 times what they paid. Jennifer Heinzen gave an interview explaining why. The house had taken something from them that they had not expected to give. She said whatever was in the house was intelligent, that it played on emotions, that Andrea Perron had warned them from the beginning, never fight inside the house, and that she understood now what Andrea meant by that. They sold it. The next owner paid $1.5 million. That ownership ended in foreclosure. The house went back on the market. The house is, as of the time of this video, still there, still on Round Top Road, and the middle bedroom is still the most active room in the house. What makes this case unusual is the documentation. The Perron family's experiences were recorded by Andrea Perron in 3 published books. The Warren investigation is documented in their own case files. The séance has multiple witnesses. The Heinzen ownership produced video and audio evidence they made publicly available. Ghost Adventures filmed there with professional equipment. Skeptical investigators have visited the property and found alternative explanations for some of what is reported. Infrasound from the land, suggestion, the power of expectation in a space with a reputation. These are legitimate considerations. They have not fully accounted for all of the reported phenomena. What cannot be explained away is the pattern. Every family, every decade, the same rooms, the same entity described independently by people who had never met each other, the same specific middle bedroom, the same sounds, the same smell, the same tall figure with the long fingers, across 50 years of completely unrelated witnesses. The house at 1677 Round Top Road is currently on the market. It has been bought and sold multiple times since the Perrons left. Each new owner arrives with their own level of preparation, their own level of belief or skepticism, their own reasons for choosing to live in the most documented haunted house in American history. None of them have stayed. None of them have left unchanged. Cory Heinzen, who researched this house for years before buying it, who is a trained paranormal investigator, who knew everything about what had happened inside those walls, he developed post-traumatic stress disorder from living there. His wife said the house has the ability to play on your emotions, that whatever is there is intelligent. The question is not whether you believe in ghosts. The question is this: what is it about that specific piece of land on Round Top Road in Harrisville, Rhode Island, that has produced the same experiences in completely unrelated families over more than 50 years? What is in that middle bedroom? What is it that every person who has lived there has eventually felt they had no choice but to leave? Bathsheba Sherman is buried in Harrisville Cemetery, approximately 1 mile from the house. Visitors have been going to her grave for years. Some have reported strange experiences there, too. Whether she is the source of what happens in that house, whether it is the land, the history, the accumulated tragedies of 3 centuries, is a question that remains open. The house at 1677 Round Top Road remains open, too. Subscribe and hit the bell for a new true haunted story every week. Tell us in the comments, if someone gave you the house for free, would you live there, knowing everything you now know?